What's up, guys? Let's get started.
Mia stared at the mountain of papers on her desk, feeling the familiar tightness in her chest. Her to-do list was a mile long, each item glaring at her like a challenge she couldn't possibly conquer. The dishes in the sink nagged at her from the kitchen, her phone buzzed with unread messages, and the emails kept piling up. She felt frozen. She sighed and sank into her chair, head in her hands. "Why can't I just do something?" she whispered to herself. It wasn't that she didn't want to get things done. She wanted to feel productive, to cross things off her list, and breathe a little easier. But every time she looked at the sheer number of things she had to do, she shut down. Her mind spiraled, bouncing from task to task, without settling on any one thing. The weight of it all pinned her in place. Her phone buzzed again. It was a message from her best friend, Alex. "Hey, how's it going? You okay?" Mia hesitated, then typed back, feeling overwhelmed. "Can't get anything done. I don't even know where to start." The reply came almost instantly. "Start small. One thing, even if it's tiny." Mia frowned at the screen. One thing? That seemed laughable. How could doing one thing make a dent in the mess she was in? She was drowning in responsibilities. What good would a single task do? Still, she had nothing to lose. She glanced at her desk and spotted a half-empty coffee cup from this morning. Without overthinking it, she stood up, grabbed the cup, and took it to the sink. The simple motion felt almost foreign after sitting frozen for so long. But as she rinsed the cup and placed it on the drying rack, something shifted inside her. It wasn't much, but it was something. When she returned to her desk, the papers still loomed, and the to-do list hadn't gotten any shorter. But now, the task of clearing her desk felt a little less impossible. Maybe Alex was onto something. Mia sat back down at her desk, staring at the papers again. They still felt heavy, a chaotic mess of deadlines, bills, and reminders. But the weight felt slightly less crushing now. She glanced at her phone and reread Alex's message. "Start small. One thing, even if it's tiny." "Okay," she whispered to herself. One thing. Her eyes landed on a single sheet of paper at the top of the pile. It was an electricity bill, overdue by a few days. She grabbed it, opened her laptop, and logged into her online banking. A few clicks later, the bill was paid. She dropped the paper into the recycling bin and exhaled. One task down. The small victory gave her a flicker of relief. She looked at the pile again and pulled out another paper, a reminder for a dentist appointment. She added the date to her phone calendar and set a reminder. Another task done. Suddenly, the mountain didn't seem quite so immovable. She wasn't trying to tackle everything at once anymore. She was chipping away at it, one tiny step at a time. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Alex. "Did you start?" Mia smiled. "Yeah, paid a bill. Added an appointment to my calendar. Feels good." Alex's reply came almost instantly. "That's awesome. Keep going. Shrink the tasks. Big goals feel heavy. Tiny steps feel doable." Mia stared at the message for a moment, letting it sink in. Shrink the tasks. She liked that. The idea of shrinking things until they felt manageable felt like a secret weapon against the overwhelming pressure. She took a deep breath and pulled out the next paper. One step at a time. Mia continued working through the papers, one tiny task at a time. Each small action felt like adding a pebble to a scale, slowly tipping the weight off her shoulders. She paid another bill. Then she filed the document into her drawer. After that, she organized her desk, pushing the remaining papers into a neat stack. When she finished, she sat back and looked around. Her desk was clear for the first time in weeks. The space felt lighter. So did she. But there was still more to do. The kitchen sink was full, and the laundry basket threatened to spill over. She felt the familiar tug of overwhelm creeping back, but before it could settle in, she reminded herself, shrink the task. "Just one dish," she said aloud. She walked into the kitchen, picked up a plate, rinsed it, and placed it on the drying rack. Then she grabbed a glass and a fork. Before she knew it, the sink was empty. She blinked at the clean counter in disbelief. Did I really just do that? Feeling a rush of momentum, she moved to the living room. The coffee table was covered in old mugs, magazines, and unopened mail. She picked up the mugs first, took them to the kitchen, and returned for the magazines. One by one, she handled each small task until the living room felt inviting again. The laundry basket still loomed in the corner, but instead of trying to tackle the entire load, she grabbed a handful of clothes and tossed them into the washing machine. Just one handful, then another. Soon, the machine hummed quietly, and the basket was empty. As she sank onto the couch, she realized something important. None of these tasks had been as impossible as they'd seemed. The weight she'd been feeling wasn't from the tasks themselves. It was from trying to carry them all at once. She pulled out her phone and texted Alex. "You're a genius. Shrinking the tasks is working." Alex replied with a winking emoji and a simple message. "Told you. Keep going. One thing at a time." Mia smiled, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Maybe she wasn't as stuck as she'd thought. The next morning, Mia woke up feeling different. For the first time in a long while, the weight on her chest felt lighter. The house was tidier, her desk was clear, and the laundry was done. Sure, there were still things to do. There always would be, but it no longer felt like she was drowning. She stretched, slid out of bed, and padded into the kitchen. The clean counter greeted her, a quiet reminder of yesterday's small victories. She made herself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table, savoring the calm. Her phone buzzed. "Alex, again. Morning. How are you feeling?" Mia smiled and typed back. "Lighter. It's weird. I didn't do anything huge, but everything feels more manageable." Alex's response was almost immediate. "That's the secret. You don't have to do everything. Just something." Mia set her phone down and thought about that. For so long, she believed motivation was something that just appeared, like a spark of inspiration that lit a fire under you, pushing you to tackle everything all at once. But that wasn't how it worked at all. Motivation didn't show up first, action did. Even the tiniest action sparked something inside her. One task led to another, and another. The momentum built slowly, quietly, until the weight of overwhelm was replaced by the steady rhythm of progress. She glanced at her to-do list, still sitting on the table. There were a few things left: replying to emails, returning a call to her mom, and prepping for an upcoming work presentation. The old Mia would have panicked at the sight of it. But now, she just picked up her phone, tapped her mom's contact, and hit call. One task at a time. The rest could wait. Mia ended the call with her mom, feeling lighter. It wasn't a long conversation, just a quick check-in, but it was another task crossed off her list. She realized something as she put her phone down. The dread she used to feel about tasks wasn't really about the tasks themselves. It was the idea of doing them. For so long, she'd seen her to-do list as a towering wall, each item stacked on top of the other, making it impossible to climb. But now, it felt more like stepping stones. One tiny step at a time, she was moving forward. She opened her laptop and stared at the unopened emails. They weren't going anywhere. The thought used to paralyze her. Today, she clicked on the first message. It was a simple request for a document. She attached the file, hit send, and moved on to the next email. Before she knew it, her inbox was down to just a few messages. She leaned back, taking a deep breath. How had this once felt impossible? Her phone buzzed. Another message from Alex. "You still alive over there?" She laughed and replied. "Not just alive. Conquering the world, one email at a time." The reply came with a party emoji. "Told you. Shrink the task. Big goals feel heavy. Tiny steps feel doable. Proud of you." Mia smiled and closed her laptop. The mountain of overwhelm wasn't gone. Life would always have new challenges, new tasks, new responsibilities. But now, she knew she didn't have to face it all at once. One thing at a time. She could handle that. The next few days felt different. Mia found herself approaching tasks with a new mindset. Whenever she felt the weight of overwhelm creeping in, she heard Alex's words in her head. Shrink the task. The laundry? Just start by sorting colors from whites. The dishes? Just rinse one plate. The emails? Just answer the easiest one first. And something magical kept happening. Once she started, she kept going. One evening, she sat at her desk with a cup of tea, reflecting on her progress. The apartment felt more peaceful now. The clutter was gone, replaced by a sense of calm. Even her mind felt clearer. It wasn't that her to-do list had disappeared. She still had work deadlines, bills to pay, and errands to run. But everything felt lighter, more manageable, like she was in control again. She pulled out a fresh notebook and opened to the first page. Mia's tiny steps. Wash one dish. Answer one email. Fold one shirt. Write one paragraph. She smiled. It was simple, almost laughably so, but it worked. Each tiny step fueled the next, building momentum like a snowball rolling down a hill. Her phone buzzed with a message from Alex. "How's my favorite productivity queen?" Mia laughed, then replied, feeling pretty unstoppable, actually. Alex's reply made her grin. Told you. Shrink the task. Big goals feel heavy. Tiny steps feel doable. Mia set her phone down and leaned back in her chair. For the first time in a long while, she believed she could handle whatever life threw at her. One tiny step at a time. Morning sunlight poured through the curtains as Mia stretched and swung her legs out of bed. A week ago, she would have stayed under the covers, scrolling through her phone, overwhelmed by the day ahead before even starting. But now, she felt different. The apartment was tidier. Her to-do list had shrunk. But more than that, she felt capable. She wasn't waiting for motivation to strike anymore. She knew the secret. Just start. She padded into the kitchen and brewed a cup of tea. As the kettle hummed, she glanced at the sticky note she'd left on the fridge. One small step. She smiled. It seemed almost too simple, but that note had become her daily mantra. Sitting at her desk, she opened her laptop and tackled a few emails. Then she checked her calendar and planned out the rest of her day. No pressure, no overwhelm, just tiny steps, one after another. Her phone buzzed. Alex again. Morning, rockstar. What's on the agenda today? Mia grinned and typed back. Emails. Laundry. Now. Taking on the world. The reply came quickly. You're a machine. Proud of you. Mia set her phone down and took a deep breath, feeling a quiet sense of pride. The tasks she once avoided now felt doable. She'd built a habit of starting small, and every small win had added up to something bigger. Momentum. No more waiting for motivation. No more feeling paralyzed. Just action. One tiny step at a time. That afternoon, Mia sat at her desk, a fresh cup of tea in hand, staring at the project she'd been avoiding for weeks. Her work presentation. The mere thought of it used to send her spiraling. The research, the slides, the speaking, it all felt like too much. But today, she didn't let herself sink into that familiar overwhelm. She took a breath and whispered to herself, just one slide. Opening her presentation software, she created the title slide, Q2 Marketing Strategy. Done. Next, she added a simple agenda. Market overview. Campaign results. Next steps. Done. Before she knew it, the ideas started flowing. One slide became 3, then 5. Each click of the keyboard chipped away at the mountain she once believed she couldn't climb. After an hour, Mia leaned back and stared at her screen. Half the presentation was finished. She blinked in disbelief. How had that happened? Her phone buzzed. Alex. Again. How's the world domination going? She laughed and replied. Halfway through my presentation. Who am I? Alex's response was immediate. Told you. Tiny steps, big results. Keep going. You've got this. Mia smiled, warmth blooming in her chest. She wasn't just crossing things off a list anymore. She was building confidence. Every tiny action proved to her that she could handle things. The overwhelm wasn't in the tasks, it was in her mind. But now she had the tools to face it. She cracked her knuckles, ready for the next slide. One tiny step at a time. The next morning, Mia woke up with a new kind of energy. It wasn't the frantic push of a looming deadline or the fleeting rush of motivation. No, this felt steadier, quieter, like a small flame that wouldn't burn out. She slipped out of bed, brewed her usual cup of tea, and settled into her favorite spot by the window. Her laptop sat open on the coffee table, the half-finished presentation waiting for her. In the past, she would have avoided it. But not today. Today, she knew better. She whispered her mantra, just one slide. Click. The next slide appeared. She added a simple heading, Market Overview. Click. A graph showcasing recent trends. Click. A few bullet points summarizing the key insights. The minutes slipped by unnoticed. When she finally leaned back, the presentation was complete. Mia stared at the screen, barely believing it. The project that had once felt like an immovable mountain was now a polished deck, ready to present. And all it took was showing up, one tiny step at a time. Her phone buzzed. Alex, of course. How'd it go? Mia grinned and snapped a photo of her laptop screen. Done. Presentation is ready. The reply came instantly. Yes. Look at you. Conquering the world. So proud. Mia set her phone down and exhaled. It wasn't just the presentation. She'd redefined what success meant. It wasn't about huge accomplishments or sudden bursts of motivation. It was about showing up, day after day, and taking the next small step. She wasn't waiting for motivation anymore. She was creating it, one tiny step at a time. The morning of the presentation arrived. Mia stood in front of the mirror, smoothing out her blouse and taking a deep breath. The old version of her would have been overwhelmed with anxiety, feeling unprepared, scrambling to gather her thoughts. But not today. She picked up her laptop, double-checked her slides, and whispered her mantra, just one step. As she entered the office, the familiar hum of chatter and keyboards filled the air. Her boss, Mr. Caldwell, gave her a reassuring nod. The team settled in, and the lights dimmed as Mia's presentation appeared on the big screen. She took a deep breath and began. Good morning, everyone. Today, I'll be taking you through our Q2 marketing strategy. The words flowed effortlessly. Each slide clicked by, and Mia found herself in a rhythm, calm, focused, and even enjoying the process. She wasn't rushing to get through it or panicking over every detail. She was present, step by step. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then applause. Mr. Caldwell stood and smiled. Fantastic job, Mia. Clear, concise, and insightful. You really nailed it. Mia felt warmth spread through her chest. As the meeting wrapped up, several colleagues congratulated her, and Alex shot her a thumbs up from across the room. Later that afternoon, she sat alone in the office kitchen, sipping a cup of tea. She thought about everything that had brought her here, the late-night anxiety, the endless procrastination, the fear of starting. But now, she knew the secret. Motivation wasn't something you waited for. It was something you created, one tiny step at a time. Her phone buzzed once more. Alex, as usual. Told you. Mia laughed, leaned back in her chair, and smiled. The mountain wasn't so big anymore. That evening, Mia walked home under a sky painted with soft hues of pink and orange. The city hummed quietly around her, but inside, she felt a calm she hadn't known in a long time. As she unlocked her apartment door and stepped inside, the familiar space felt different. It wasn't just the tidier kitchen counters or the neatly folded laundry, it was her mindset. She set her bag down and brewed a cup of tea, her ritual of reflection. Curling up on the couch, she opened her notebook and flipped through the pages. Each entry told a story of tiny victories. Washed one dish, answered one email, finished my presentation. Mia smiled softly. She realized now that the secret to overcoming overwhelm wasn't about waiting for motivation to strike. It was about shrinking the task until it felt manageable. One small action sparked another. Momentum built quietly, almost unnoticed, until one day she looked up and saw the mountain she'd been afraid of was already behind her. Her phone buzzed once more. Alex, so, what's the next adventure? Mia laughed and typed back. One step at a time, remember? As she hit send, she felt a deep sense of pride. The old Mia would have waited for the perfect moment, the perfect mindset, the perfect plan. But this new Mia, she just started, and that made all the difference.